Good afternoon. I will now call to order the meeting of the members of the New York Job Development Authority doing business as the Empire State Development Corporation for Monday, August 4th, 2014. Maria, just joined us. Hi, Maria. The members have received the written materials in advance of this meeting. They're free to ask questions, of course, at any time. As noted on the agenda posted to the Internet, we welcome public comment on the items on the following agenda. To ensure maximum opportunity for participation, speakers representing themselves may speak for up to 2 minutes each, and those representing groups may speak for up to 4 minutes, one speaker per group, please. Speakers' comments may address only items considered at today's meeting. Now, before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I would like to ask the members whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the item or items on the agenda. If so, I would ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. We will then be sure that you may recuse yourself or yourselves from any discussion or vote with regard to the item down the road as it comes up in the discussion. So I will wait for a response. Anyone have any conflicts with anything in today's agenda, potential conflicts? All right, good. Well, hearing none, we will continue. The foregoing having been noted for the record, I will first note the minutes of June 26 to the minutes of the June 26, 2014 members meeting will be voted on at a subsequent meeting, and then I will. All right, so that's the first piece of news. No minutes today. We'll get that next time, and I will ask Jonathan Byer to present an item relating to the New York Liberty Development Corporation. So Jonathan's going to do something administrative, and then we'll get into the main item of the day. Good afternoon, Mr. Byer.
Good afternoon to all here and who may be listening. As you noted, this item concerns the New York Liberty Development Corporation, which was formed, or authorized to be formed by the Job Development Authority over a decade ago. The Liberty Development Corporation has a membership body consisting of 2 members. The Class A member is the governor, and the Class B member is this authority. Each of the members may elect 3 directors to the corporation's board of directors. Currently, we have a vacancy on the Job Development Authority's appointments, and in accordance with the bylaws, we are now proposing that Mehul Patel be elected as a director by the authority in its capacity as a Class B member. Mr. Patel currently serves as the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the authority, and is the Chief of Staff to the President and CEO of the Urban Development Corporation. Accordingly, we are asking the authority's approval to appoint Mehul Patel as a board member for the New York Liberty Development Corporation.
Jonathan, thank you. Any questions or comments from members with regard to this item? Thank you. I first thought, he may be nominated to serve as a Class B member, but he's a Class A guy. That's all I'll have to say. Adam has has moved that we accept the report as presented by Mr. Byer. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments from the public with regard to the item? Always need to pause and ask that. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any objections? Hearing no objections or opposition, the motion carries, and welcome Mehul.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Jonathan, thank you for taking care of that and for, as you always do, supporting these important administrative actions that lead to the effective functioning of the JDA. Well, now we'll get to a couple of projects, proposals that Ray's going to present. Ray's going to present the next 2 items on this afternoon's agenda. Please vote. We're going to vote after each item is presented, one at a time. And Ray is going to begin with an item in Staten Island, the JDA Real Estate Acquisition Loan for the benefit of the Sandy Hook Pilots Benevolent Association. I know it's an exciting project. Ray, we've talked about it, and look forward to your presentation. Jonathan, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Staff is seeking authorization to make a real estate loan with Job Development Authority proceeds to the United New York Sandy Hooks Benevolent Association and United New Jersey Sandy Hooks Pilot Benevolent Association. The loan request is in the amount of $3,435,000. The rate is to be set at closing. Currently, the rate is 4.73%, and the term will be 20 years. The participating bank in the transaction is Northfield Bank, will participate in the amount of $1,717,000. Borrow equity of $572,500 will complete the total project cost of $5,725,000. The Sandy Hook Pilot Association are the sole providers of piloted service to ships entering and departing from the port. The base of operations, located on the North Shore of Staten Island, suffered severe heavy damages from Hurricane Sandy, and an entirely new building is needed. The project calls for the construction of a 14,000 square foot facility. The facility will house a machine and engine repair shop, administrative offices, pilot, dispatch, and operations command center, and will include the installation of backup systems for the communications, systems, and power. The $5.7 million project will support 20 construction jobs and retain 130 jobs at the Staten Island location. The project is currently in the design and permitting phase, and construction is expected to begin in May 2014 and to be completed in April 2015. The economic priority of this project stems directly from the vital services the associations provide throughout the interstate, and international commerce created on the Wharves, New York. Moreover, the pilots are responsible for significant job retention and creation within New York State and New Jersey, with a direct support of over 279,000 jobs in the New York, New Jersey region, and nearly $11.6 billion in personal income and $37.1 billion in business income. Combined, the association is also responsible for creating over $45 million direct workforce revenue each year. Staff has reviewed the financials and find the financials to be in compliance with JDA regulations, and we recommend approval of this project. Any questions?
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from JDA directors about this proposal, this loan to Sandy Hook pilots?
I would just like to say that I think this is we spent time in the finance, going through this in detail, and I think it's a really great project, and as I said before, I thought the presentation was really well done, so I just wanted the whole board to know that.
Thank you, Emily. I missed that, I'm afraid, but I can say that I, for other reasons, visited the site after Sandy. So I've seen the location. I've seen, the devastation of their longtime building at the edge of the pier, or right near the pier there. And I'm also, for what it's worth, familiar with the organization for many years. I think many of us are. They really do provide a vital's an understatement, a vital service to the port, bringing ships in and out. And I also think in terms of a credit, if you look at their operating revenue, pilotage fees, unless there's a dramatic shortfall in shipping activity into New York Harbor, which would have much bigger repercussions than a JDA loan economically, they have a lock on the business, if you will. No one else brings a ship into the port of New York, so that fee income I look at as pretty stable income, right? I think most of us would, and it gives them pretty strong financials, right?
Yes.
Any questions from anyone who's any of the directors that are connected to us remotely this afternoon about the project? Questions or comments for Ray or for anyone?
I do have one quick question, Mr. Chairman. This looks like a great project. It looks like a worthwhile project. I just noticed when Ray was going through it, he said the construction phase was expected to begin in May 2014. Since we're already in August of 2014, I'm just curious if there's a revised schedule or...
Ray, when are they going to have they started construction already, or are they going to start?
Actually, I misspoke. I obviously misspoke. For some reason, I'm thinking May. It should have been October 2014. They're in the process now of going through the planning and a stage of the project. So I don't know where I got May from.
Well, because they were starting design,
Right, okay.
Yeah.
which is how we have cost estimates.
Okay.
Mario,
So
any other questions?
Does that push back the completion from April of 2015? I'm curious about, I don't know what the busy seasons are and things like that, so I'm just curious about when this project would be finished in construction.
No, it's vital for them to start this project before the winter time, and so they expect completion by April 2015.
Okay, great.
Very good. Jim, do you have, or Anthony for that matter, any questions?
Page 3. Bottom of page 3.
No, sounds good.
This is Jim. It does sound like a very worthwhile project, and I see throughout here that we don't fear that we're not going to be able to meet the debt to service ratio. Yeah, debt service coverage ratio. It looks as if there's no concern that we're not going to be able to remain
No, we have
below that.
No, we have no, I mean, we looked at, the staff has looked at the financial statements. They're very strong, and like the chairman said, their pilot fees are tremendous, so we expect no issues at all with meeting the debt service coverage at all.
I think the issue is the operating, that the debt service comes before any payments out.
Right. And one of the things about the association is that they have to pay all their debt before the pilots, and pay may not be the right correct, before they get compensated. All their debts and operating expenses have to be covered before the pilots receive any compensation from their work.
Understood. No further questions here.
All right, great.
Yeah, page 17, I guess, provides a better analysis.
Yeah, there's some,
Yeah.
Adam's pointing out, and some of you may have seen it, probably did, but on page 17 there's a breakdown of that. Very good. Let me pause and see if there are any questions from the public with respect to this item. And indeed, if there are any questions from directors, please continue. But if there are no questions from the public and no further questions from any of us, he pauses in anticipation of further questions. I'll entertain a motion, please, for this project's approval.
Motion?
So the motion's been made by Emily, seconded by Adam. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. So that motion carries, and the JDA loan to Sandy Hook Pilots Ray is approved. Congratulations. Thank you. Please keep us posted. Ray has a second item for our consideration this afternoon. It's the Case Group up on Green Island. And Ray, why don't you describe that project to us as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Staff has come back seeking authorization to make a real estate loan and a machinery and equipment loan to the Case Group. The real estate loan will be the amount of $1,380,000. The rate, again, is to be fixed at closing. Currently, the rate will be 4.54%. It is a 10-year loan with a 20-year amortization. The machinery and equipment loan would be in the amount of $900,000. And again, the rate will be fixed at closing. The term for the real estate loan will be 10 years. First Niagara Bank is our partner in this transaction. For the real estate portion of the transaction, their participation will be in the amount of $690,000. The equity portion for the borrower for the real estate is $327,000. Total real estate project financing is $2,397,000. For the machinery and equipment, First Niagara's participation will be in the amount of $450,000. Borrower equity will be $186,000. And total project finance is $1,536,000. The Case Group was established in 2001 and manufactures high-quality wood and metal windows and doors. Case serves the luxury, residential, high-end commercial, and institutional market, but its primary customers are contractors and architects for private homes. They are currently located in the former Empire Zone in the capital region of New York State. The real estate project involves the construction of a 28,811 square foot addition to its existing 50,000 square foot facility. The expansion will enable the company to increase capacity to meet current demand and provide space for climate-controlled storage of its wood and metal inventory. The ability to store will reduce manufacturing time by 6 to 10 weeks because currently the company must order materials as needed instead of storing it for future use. The acquisition of the new machinery and equipment will decrease manufacturing time, allow for upgrades, higher level of efficiency, increase capacity, reduce costs in production, make them much more productive, and enhance performance, or enhance overall production performance. At the completion of this project, 29 jobs will be retained and 26 will be created. Currently, the company is also applying for Startup New York. The Case Group has a history of working with Hudson Valley Community College. It actually has employed 3 of their graduates, and the plan is, if the Startup New York application is approved, they will go into a partnership with Hudson Valley Community College and first train the graduates and undergraduates. They'll have a course in the manufacture of these windows, and they will train and then ultimately hire many of the students that graduate through the program. We expect the company to continue to grow. In 2014, the company has $4.7 million in sales contracts that are in various stages of completion. If these contracts are completed on schedule, the debt coverage for this company will be 1.65, which is above the 1.2 JDA threshold. In addition, there is $7.5 million of pending contracts beyond 2014 with a very good, at least 50% probability of execution. For those reasons, staff recommend approval of this credit.
Ray, thank you. Questions from directors, JDA directors, with respect to this proposal, please?
I have a couple of questions. When I went through this, there are a few things. The debt service coverage works if the contracts are completed on schedule.
Right.
If they're not, how bad is it?
You know what? I'll let Ross Friedman, who handles the financial analysis, answer that question.
Okay.
It could be an issue. What happened was this company, it actually came to the board a couple of years ago for approval, and at that time the debt coverage was rather strong. But what happened is one of the issues with this organization is the size of their facility is rather limited. So what happens is their projects are rather long-term projects, and if there are delays in the projects, they don't have much capacity to take on other projects. But when it comes to this project, what they're looking to do is, by expanding, it will allow them to take on other projects, so they will have more of a margin for error.
When you say the long-term nature of the contracts, what does that mean exactly? What do they consider long-term? How long does it take, to get something completed?
It could be up to a year when they start the contract. Because what happens, their customers are architects and contractors who have customers that are looking to construct high-end homes, and so they'll start the contracting process. They will bring the borrowers over. So the process takes anywhere up to a year. So what the problem they were having now was they would take a while to order the materials they need to complete the contract. With the expansion and the new machinery equipment, they'll be able to keep a lot of the materials in the premises. So as a contract is being completed, someone may come up to them and say, "Hey, I need a $200,000 job real quick. Could you get this done?" So now they have machinery, they have the inventory on hand that will allow them to complete these short-term projects. But normally it probably takes anywhere from a year to get done. A lot of the delays the way he explained to me, a lot of the delays is just the customer saying, "Okay, I'll get back to you in a week," and then 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, he hasn't heard back from the customer. Obviously, building a home is important to everyone, but sometimes these borrowers, who normally are wealthy individuals, have other things on their table, so they're not making this a priority for them.
Because, my concern, is just that from statements in the income statement, the analysis you did shows that they were waiting on 3 projects, they stalled, and there was an issue about they couldn't replace it with anything. And so what you're representing, that by making this loan and them expanding, then they're going to be able to avoid or mitigate that risk in the future.
Absolutely. That's the main thrust of the project. The ability to have the inventory on hand. The gentleman from Case Group is a very popular individual insofar as customer base. He has a reputation of doing high-end windows and really quality work. So at one point in his production process, he was not able to take on additional work because his factory was committed to these long-term projects. Now, with the expansion and the inventory on hand, he can take in, I guess you call it the walk-in business. You know, someone walks into the place, oh, I need this project, I'm building a home. It may not be in Dubai, it may be in Hudson Valley, could you help me with this? And then in the interim, he's able to complete those kind of contracts.
It's really a factory floor capacity problem, or managing his capacity at the factory. And when he was holding time and manpower on the factory floor for a deal that then didn't happen, he had no way to replace that cash flow. And what this enables him to do is have a lot more flexibility. So if he's having to reserve factory floors, manufacturing space, he has another line that he can, move forward with other business. So the problem there was it was a lumpy revenue issue, and this will enable him to increase his flexibility so he can smooth it out.
Yeah,
Navarro has been a JDA customer for about 10 years.
I'm sorry?
He's been a JDA customer for 10 years.
I wanted to flag that also,
Yeah.
Ray. So he already has a JDA loan?
Small JDA loan.
For how much, and how's he doing?
It's $800,000 balance left, and he's been timely on his payments, and all our calculations have included the additional debt to his existing debt.
So
One of the things we found is that he's been on time with every loan payment for JDA. He's
For
been a
10
solid
years.
customer for about 10 years now. He's been a solid borrower. So he just wants to grow his business. He came back to us and said, Ray, I need to help. Can we help him with this project?
Yeah, but he's been on time with that because he's been making enough money. I mean, this is, I'm not saying no, but I'm just
Right.
trying to, to understand this because, it's not always clear that just by building bigger, you're going to solve the delivery
Absolutely.
problem
But
and the issue problem as far as people changing their minds, about if they want to go forward or being indecisive about it.
He actually has, in having a conversation with Margaret, we really dug deep with him and found out that he's taking a 25% upfront fee just to look at the plans, another 25%, to sign to begin. So he gets 50% of his money before he starts paying.
Non-refundable?
Non-refundable.
So that's been part of him trying to manage.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have a clientele like that, they're a little bit difficult to manage. So by having non-refundable deposits that are at 50% of the total cost, it will really help him going forward in terms of as business falls away.
Right.
And then this expansion of the factory also helps him give him the operating flexibility that he needs. Finally, I think given the 10 years of history, I think we're very comfortable that he's a good borrower.
So we're going to be now pari passu with First Niagara?
For, as the JDA statutes require, will be pari passu, co-equal first on machinery and equipment, and the second position on the real estate. That's the nature of all our JDA transactions.
Right. What about with respect to all of the other provisions in their commitment letter? Do we share in fees? Do we also get
Well, our fee is
prepayment penalties? and
absolutely,
things like that?
absolutely. Our fee is 1% of transaction, and there's prepayments costs that are, quite severe if he decides to prepay this loan. There's insurance requirements. We're going to require key man life insurance on both principals. Obviously, financial guarantees are required. So we're pretty comfortable insofar as where our collateral positions lies within the JDA statutes.
So if he picks the fixed option, they're giving him a floating and swapping to a fixed, and we're just giving a fixed?
Yes.
Okay.
And do you know, when does he commit to what he's going to accept?
Well, he has a commitment letter from First Niagara already,
Yeah.
and he's waiting for us to issue in the loan authorization.
Fixed or floating from First Niagara, because they give him both options.
Oh, he's
in the
going to,
agreement.
before he closes with us, we're going to have that information. Because, again, like with all JDA projects, in order for us to move forward, this project has to come to fruition.
Yeah, but my question is it going to be fixed or floating? Because for something like this, that is, financially not strong if you just look at the numbers now and what their performance was last year. So my question is just, are you trying to push him, or shouldn't we ask him to do fixed, because then you know what the issue is? I'm just nervous that if rates do go up, and who knows, maybe our fellow board member in Lower Manhattan knows, but if it does go up, it's not going to put an extra strain on this company.
That's a good question. When Ray, do we know when they make that decision
I'm
about
talking
when
about
they
the bank one.
when they lock in their rate with First Niagara?
Yeah, it looks like it's
I thought it was a fixed rate on that. Was
Well, it
They have an
says,
option, option one,
There's
option
option.
two.
But
yeah, they have options, exactly.
I can verify, but I believe he's taking the fixed rate though. We discussed that. Didn't we
Yeah, I
discuss
think-
that?
yeah.
I think that's why you put it in the
Right,
box,
right, he
that
did.
had options.
He gave us, he checked off that option when we got the term sheet,
So
so.
can you assure us that it will be fixed then, or whatever you,
Sure.
because I don't think it's a wise idea to give someone like this a floating rate. Not that he's not a...
He's got enough variables.
First,
He's got enough variables in
First
this.
Niagara is indifferent
Yeah.
to it.
Exactly, and we're not.
Right.
So can that be
A condition?
a condition?
Yeah.
Ray?
Right, we'll do that.
Yes,
Is that an
We'll-
okay condition?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think that since he was a 2C plus in our rating
Yeah.
system, the C is a bit of a red flag to make sure things are locked down. That could have. I mean, he may have been, or he has been a good borrower, as you've said, Ray,
Right.
on his past loan. But here he's asking for a significant amount of money to both acquire a building and expand the business. And this is not flourishing. The business has some challenges. So I think Emily's point's well taken, that let's make sure everybody knows what we're getting into and that we know the rate and that's a fixed
Absolutely.
rate over at First Niagara. And First Niagara, obviously, a bank we know well and have
Yes,
worked
we've
with.
done a
and
couple trans. We're going to be
I
doing a
think that
couple
it's,
transactions. With them.
there's some confidence to know that it's decent credit as far as they're concerned.
Right.
Okay.
Other questions or comments for Ray? Or Ross, for that matter. Ross, thank you for your help.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is Jim in Albany. I was looking at I made some notes earlier here on page 3 where we have the listing of the U.S. window and door demand looking forward. And I'm assuming that we would think that this company would fall into the generic 9.3% growth potential. I see it also says that the high-end market might be increased by 12% a year or so. That's just a concern. I don't know whether or not we consider this company as sort of our generic window and door manufacturer or not, but certainly based on what we saw happen in that period, 06 to 011, the projections of where we're headed from here that is a bit of a concern for me. But perhaps this company is, I mean, maybe there's really good reason to think that we're going to see a shift in this company toward more of the high end, since that looks like there's a little bit greater potential for growth there on the high end market. But that's all. I had made a note here earlier that concerned me.
I think, Jim, this is a company that makes high-end fixtures. I mean, they're already in the sort of compete in that world, the high-end market. I think for a company, but I agree with your interesting question. My own view is that it is sort of hard to predict, and when you look at broader national trends, which are supplied by national trade associations of companies like Marvin and Pella and Anderson, it has nothing to do with this company and Cohoes Avenue and Green Island. Like, they're really small, and their business dynamics aren't driven necessarily by the broad housing market that is regionalized and is right. So I think we have to hope that they've got a decent pipeline of high-end builders, contractors, and architects who know them and like their work. This is two guys. This is like a small business, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that they have a good reputation with a broad enough group of people in the region. They're not selling windows in Southern California, I suspect. But that they have a good reputation and they're building the business, and that they would be part, to your point, of the broader housing market recovery. Again, you can't put that under your pillow, because that recovery is very much regionalized, and then it's segmented in different parts of the market, low, medium, high, luxury, whatever. So I think it's important to have, it's interesting to have the data in here, but I read it and then say, okay, yeah, that's good. If if the numbers were even greater, I wouldn't necessarily pin that success on this one company, because they're a very small company in a very big world, of building supplies.
Right.
But I actually am more, some of my optimism for it would come out of the fact that in the capital region, there's good building and housing data, right? You guys who live there know more about this than I do, but generally speaking, Albany, Troy, up to Saratoga, moving west and south, the region is seeing a fair amount of investment, and, you would think that regionally these guys would have some customers, and that's trending in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a personal observation, but I hope that, Jim, you're right, that, industry's doing well, these guys do well as a result, and they're all, a part of it.
Thank you.
I have another question. That is, it's going to maintain 26 jobs,
Right.
and it says in here, add another 29. Is that correct?
No, it's 29 and 26.
Well, those are new jobs over what period of time,
The
Ray?
26 jobs will be created over a 5-year period.
5 years?
Okay. I
29
thought
jobs. It's 29 to the project.
right now they have 26 employees.
Yeah.
Isn't that what
29.
you're
29 will be
saying?
retained.
29 will be retained and 26 will be
Yeah, on
created.
page 2 it says 26 full-time currently, so 29 full-time
29.
currently, 26
Created.
created over the
5-year
5-year
period.
period.
That is the expectation. And we're monitoring them we've implemented a procedure now where we'll be checking in. We expect yearly reports from them, obviously. But year 3, we're going to say, okay, where are you with this? Because you only have 2 years left to go.
Right.
How far along are you?
Mhm.
We also, because of the Star of New York factor, we're going to work closely with the Star of New York staff just to make sure these jobs are being created. And
Is Startup New York provide services to companies like this, such as making sure their expansion plan makes sense or whatever?
Not really.
No.
Startup is a very helpful new, an attractive new tool that is simply it's a broad-based, tax abatement program, right? So
Oh, okay. It's
if the
primarily.
company, it is economic development by tax elimination.
I see.
So you move a company, you create a new company, you move a company that's not a current employer, or you grow like this and put your 26 jobs in a startup zone, no income tax, no sales tax, no property tax, no corporate income tax. For 10 years, your taxes are eliminated.
Oh,
Right. Yeah, nice, right?
I want one of those.
Everybody wants
So do a lot of people.
So it's the attractiveness is really a 10-year tax abatement,
I
and the
see.
personal income tax being the most notable savings in most cases. But Ray, although they're working with HVCC, and I think I know where they're located because they're right near
Green Island.
Ecolab, right? Not Ecolab. What's it called? Ecovative. The industrial park. There's an
Yes,
industrial park in Green
industrial
Island.
park.
This is sounding very familiar to me. But you'd have to talk to Leslie. Because HEV, I don't know how they do that. We're already seeing. I see a picture of a building here, and we know where way they want to build this. And a building supply company per se isn't a natural fit
well,
in startup unless the college finds some great connection between what they're teaching and making windows.
Well, I guess it's not the actual window making, but the process of manufacturing the windows. So the college.
Yeah, no. If the college can thread the needle on this
Well,
one, it's up to
yeah,
the
yeah,
college,
yeah.
and
The
they
college-
can say that there's interesting technology going on, and they're going to have some interns in there, and there's some connection between the business activity and the academic mission of HVCC, which is a broad, vocational training community college academic mission. So
Right.
they might be able to make the case.
They have a history of working with Hudson Valley Community
Right.
College.
I just talking about the real estate. We're giving a real estate loan for the acquisition of property that's not now in startup, right?
No,
So that's the problem. I mean,
it's 100 mile. I guess it's within that 1 mile radius.
No, that we can waive, but it's more like you just can't. The HVCC can't simply wave a magic wand and say, "Oh, that building that the JDA just helped you buy, we're just going to make the taxes go away." Mm-mm. It's much more rigorous than that. Or everybody, Emily just mentioned, she had buildings all over the place. Hey, no taxes. Come to my place. No taxes.
Right, yeah.
So there is a provision for off-campus space, but in most, you start with on-campus
Right.
space, and then the SUNY schools, including HVCC, can designate off-campus space, but there's a whole process for that. And they have to control it. So it's a long way of saying, I don't know,
We're
I haven't
actually-
thought about it, but I'm not sure how this would work for startup.
We're actually meeting with Leslie in a week to discuss, because I've had 3 projects upcoming. Everyone has mentioned Startup New York to me.
Well, everybody wants it, Because everybody wants to pay no taxes. I can't blame them.
So we're having that conversation with them to make sure that Leslie and her staff understand how JDA works. So someone says to them, "Oh, we're also applying for a JDA loan."
Right.
We kind of work together.
That's a great idea. I'm glad you're coordinating. It's back to Emily's point of it. Do we do things to help the businesses from a
Right,
technical
right,
assistance standpoint? So advising them on how they can grow, and yes, have a tax advantage by putting their expansion or their new company formation in a startup zone. That's a great, and if JDA could be a part of it, yeah, great conversation. I just say that in this case, a real estate loan to a building we've seen a picture of that's not on that campus of HBCC, becomes a challenge because businesses don't apply for startup.
The college does.
The college does on behalf of the business, and the college has to control the real estate.
Right.
So these guys have to take our loan, to be blunt about it, and this is not, I'm oversimplifying, but they somehow have to acquire this new building or this expanded building, and then lease it back to the college, which gets, because and then the college comes and applies and says, we have a startup zone. Look, we got control over legally. We have control over the space, even if it's like a lease for $1, and it's our space.
Right.
Oh, and this company is going to go in it. That could be a little too cute and complicated in this, right?
Aren't they buying land though? Isn't that
No,
part of
this
the
is,
business? It's just for the construction?
Just expanding the building.
They're just making their current building bigger. Right.
And their current building isn't in that,
It's not in startup zone that I know of.
It's 1 mile from the campus. Again, I'm not a startup New York expert, and what I did read about this and decided it's 1 mile from the campus, but the chairman is absolutely correct. They have to make the case that the college controls that space, and I did explain that to the borrower.
Right.
So I'm sure he says, no, we got over this, we're good.
Well,
he's very well. I sent him the startup
his
regulations.
loan's not going to close if he's dependent on startup. But because again, just being within a mile of a campus
Right.
doesn't mean anything. Right? There's
And
a lot of space within a mile of a
It's
campus.
not close enough for
Because-
horseshoes.
I'm assuming then that these, projected cash flows reflect all the tax relief.
No, absolutely not. This loan would work if he doesn't get approved to start in New York.
Good.
It's
not
underwritten
relying-
as if he doesn't.
Yeah, it's not relying on starting in New York.
Yeah, he
He,
better not be
it was-
whacking his taxes out of his
it was-
financials. A little
It
premature.
was mentioned to me by everyone in the capital region. Please mention there's a Start New York loan. So it's all right. We'll talk about Start New York, but this is not a Start New York project. I should say.
Yeah.
And so I mentioned it as a Start New York project, and I have
It's-
complied with the request
it's
of the
not
folks
impossible.
in Troy, folks in capital region.
But it would be, we can talk about it offline, right? Not impossible, but it would be tricky.
Yes.
It's just not, normally, and we have examples now, there are 44 college and universities that have startup, i.e. tax-free zones. In fact, since the school can have more than one zone, we have over 200 zones. And 25 businesses, right, Mehul? In those more than 200 spaces on 25 campuses, and a growing list. It's very exciting, and a growing list of companies. But in most cases, it's either on-campus space, undeveloped land or buildings, or space the college has previously acquired, or is in the process of acquiring. Acquire. It's campus-controlled, school-controlled space, and they say we want to have an incubator here, we want to have biotech companies, we want to have window makers. And then they go and they get the space certified, two-step process. ESD does the review. If it complies, we certify the space.
Right.
Then they go and get the companies, the schools do, and they come back and say, okay, now I got this window guy that I want to go in my window technology incubator facility. Brilliant.
Right, the gas between the insulated panes is making.
There you go.
all
Oh, you
different.
can,
They're-
believe me, you hear all kinds of, there's ways to make it work. But the school, and
Low
you raised
E-glass.
point about 1 mile is true. The legislation says that the off-campus space in most situations can't be more than 1 mile away from the campus unless the commissioner, this guy, waives that requirement, which we do when there's an argument for remote and rural areas where the best, a mile is like, just not enough
country
distance. Well, it's not enough distance to get to the next town over where the incubator is,
Yeah.
right? So, the distances are much greater than Brooklyn Army Terminal to SUNY Downstate or something. So anyway, we can talk more about it. I do think it's really good, to Emily's point, that whenever we're looking at JDA loans, we're making sure the borrower or potential borrower is considering other forms of support from ESD. So whether it's startup because it could provide tax relief, or other things that they're eligible for. Small business assistance, our new investment fund. There are other ways we can help. Anyway, that's helpful. Other questions or comments on case? The case. The case group, technically speaking. Well then, may I, and let me ask if there are any comments from the public on the case group and their request. Hearing none, I'll ask please for a motion for its approval.
Motion.
Motion made by Emily. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. Was that Jim?
It
Or Mario? It was. Thank you, Jim. Very good. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. There aren't any of those. So the motion carries. And the loan is approved, but let the minutes reflect, subject to the requirement that, or this condition, that Ray confirm that the First Niagara loan will be a fixed-rate loan at an amount, at or near the amount that's in the materials. We just don't want any kind of interest rate risk on what already is, a challenging business situation.
Okay.
Fair?
So no problem.
Great. Anybody have anything else? Well, if there's no further business for us to consider this afternoon, thank you all. Thanks especially to the members of the Finance Committee for doing all the scrubbing of the deals in advance of our meeting. Great to see everybody. Happy August. Happy summer. We will convene again soon with more JDA activity. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Ross.
Take care.
Margaret. Everybody
Thanks,
else.
folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.